Do you remember what Sarah did when she heard God's promise that she would have a child? What did she do? She laughed. And yet here we are. And it's all been leading to this moment right here. Isaac is born. Isaac on the 8th day is circumcised, and then 2 to 3 years later, more laughter happens. But let's slow down a little bit, why don't we? How many times has it happened to you where you're reading a Bible passage and you've read it so many times before, and suddenly you see something in that text you've never seen before? It was always there. You had just never noticed before. So I want you to not skip these words too quickly. The Lord visited Sarah as he had said. He did to Sarah as he had promised. And the son came at the time of which God had spoken. That everything in this chapter right here is going to find its footing, its root, right there in those promises. That God does what he says. God fulfills his promise. That God works just when we need him to. And everything in our lives finds its footing right there as well. God does what he says, Christian. God fulfills his promise, Christian. God works just when we need him to, Christian. Like this week, I've pored over that, just kind of come back to that regularly, and I've sought to remember and believe it, that God is sovereign. God is in control. God will do what he says. He is, as we've seen throughout Genesis, he is our provider. He is our protector. He is our sovereign. He is our sustainer. Now, I want to just slow down once again on this. How often has a friend said to you, kind of spoken to you the word of God, and your only response to that is, yeah, I know that. I know that to be true. You don't even have to tell me. I know. And you do know. Your problem isn't that you don't know. Your problem is that when all's said and done, you don't believe it. That when the rubber meets the road, you don't believe it. Like Martin Luther used to get this complaint from his people that he preached the same thing all the time. That they would say, every time we come in here, you preach the same thing. You preach the gospel, the gospel, the gospel, the gospel. And they're saying by that, look, surely we know it by now. And Luther responded to them wisely by saying, here's why I do that. Because week after week after week, you come in here looking like a people that don't believe it. Look, I'm not asking, do you know that God does what he says? Do you know that God does what he promises? Do you know that God shows up when God needs to show up? Do you know that? That's not what I'm asking. Do you believe it? Do you believe that what God says, he will do? Do you believe that God is faithful to his promise? That he moves just when he needs to? Do you believe it? Do you believe that God is in control and that his word has power? That his word created the world? That his word raises the dead? That his word brings light and brings life? And that it's even this word that is in your hand right now? That the word that he gives to us, he doesn't just want it in your head. He doesn't just want you to be able to do well at Bible drills. He wants it in your heart. He wants it in your hand as you walk by the way. He wants it to be the sword with which you fight against. You put to death doubts and discouragements and anxieties and worries. God does what he says. And anything he says, no matter how seemingly crazy to us, seemingly unlikely. We may even laugh at it sometimes. And God says, I will do what I said. You want to laugh at my word? Why don't you name your baby Isaac? What does the word Isaac mean? Laughter. Isaac is here. Baby Isaac is here. That this house is full of laughter. You got to imagine that the joy and the laughter he brings to this family is undeniable. That even at 100 years old, Abraham is getting down on the floor to play with him. Some of you 100-year-olds know getting down there is kind of the easy part. It's the getting back up that we are somewhat concerned about, right? Can you imagine 90-year-old Sarah just standing over the crib, can't stop looking, can't stop watching, can't stop smiling, can't stop laughing. After all those years, all those prayers, all that time, Isaac is here. Listen to what she says. God has made laughter for me. Everyone who hears will not do that. They will laugh. She's not saying they will laugh at me. She's saying they will laugh over me. That as I laugh, they will laugh too. Who would have said, listen to what she says, who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children, yet I have borne him a son in his old age? What do you hear when you read that? After all those years of not feeling like she's enough, that she couldn't give her husband what he wanted, what he needed, a son to carry on the line. Even down to the point that at one point she says, just take another woman. Maybe that will work. Like that is brokenness. That is doubt. That is discouragement. That is despair. And yet here she is now laughing. It's a laughter now that is not full of doubt and discouragement, but how could I have ever doubted you? How could I have ever thought that God would not fulfill his word? Picture that. Every time they see Isaac, they remember the God who speaks, the God who promises, the God who fulfills, and the God who shows up just in time. Let me ask you something. Do you have that in your life? Do you have those stories or those events, those jobs, the home, the relationship, the child, whatever it is, that every time you see that, you're reminded of the faithfulness of God? Isaac was that for them. What is yours? Because I would say if you don't have one, then you need your eyes opened. Because all your life, God has been faithful, Christian. And all your life, goodness has been running after you. Kids, I got homework for you. I guess we're all kids in here. We're somebody's kids. So kids, welcome to Children's Church. I want you to talk to one another, ask one another. Ask your spouse, ask your parents, ask your grandparents, ask your grandkids, ask those around you. What in your life is a reminder of the faithfulness of God? What is that Ebenezer stone? You remember that? What is that Ebenezer stone that says, oh, God has surely helped us thus far. Surely God has been faithful thus far. Isaac is here. And as children are prone to do, Isaac grows up. Well, he starts the process at least. He's finally weaned. And so Abraham and Sarah decide to have a feast, have a party. And it was at this feast for Isaac. Now, Isaac would have been between 2 and 3 years old, so the story moves fairly quickly here, right? And trouble comes at this feast. This is the way it works, right? Wherever you see the Lord's blessing in your life, you might as well get ready, because what's going to happen also? Where the Lord moves, Satan moves as well. Where the Lord is building and growing up, Satan is seeking to devour, destroy, and tear down. So here they are at this feast. Sarah sees the son of Hagar, the firstborn of Abraham, right? What's he doing? Did I lose you? What's he doing? He's laughing. What's the word for that? It's Sahak. It's the word Isaac. So you've got Ishmael Isaacing Isaac. You don't need that, but I find it interesting. He's Isaacing Isaac. He's not just laughing at him, oh, look how cute he is. There's actually mocking taking place right here. He's mocking this little 2 to 3-year-old boy, and the one person that really didn't need to see it did. Sarah saw him mocking, and so she goes to her husband and says, "Get them out. Get them out. They do not belong here. They can't stay." She says, "That boy," won't even call him by name, "that boy will not be heirs with my son." Now, obviously, this displeases Abraham, right? This was his son too. And he loves his son. He cares for his son. And so now Abraham has a choice. Listen to his wife and kick out a second-string wife and son, or don't listen to his wife. Because don't forget, the only reason he has this son in the first place is because why? Because he listened to the voice of his wife, that she came to him and said, "I can't have children. Take Hagar, have a child with her." And he listened. And still, the consequences of that sin is before him, and it's still causing troubles. Have you noticed this in your life, that sometimes the Lord takes your sin, he forgives the sin, and he kind of takes the consequences away also? Like, how many of you, if I said to you, "Tell me about your childhood," you'd say, "I don't know how I survived it. I should not be here today because I was a moron." Is this your story? Is this your song? That's the way it was. But you look at it and you say, I know the Lord's forgiven me for that too, but I don't bear consequences. And then you can look at other sins, though, and the Lord forgave those sins too, right? When you come to Christ, he forgives all your sins, not some of them, and then you got to make up for the rest. He forgives all your sins, and yet you can look at those sins and still see consequences in your life that you live by daily. It's not as if the Lord has not forgiven those, but it's as if in his infinite wisdom, those consequences remain in your life throughout your life so that they can consistently be drawing you back to the Lord and his goodness and your need for him, right? Look, Abraham still is living with the consequences of the sin of listening to his wife that first time. And it's in this dilemma that the Lord speaks again, and he says, "Look, Abraham, listen to her. Isaac is the promised child. She's right. He's the one through whom the blessings will come. He's the only one who gets the inheritance, not Ishmael. So you need to listen to your wife and send them away." And essentially that means send them away with nothing. You're not selling off like the prodigal son story. You're not selling off your property and giving him some. No, you send him away with nothing. He is the son of the slave. You send him away. Look, Sarah saw Ishmael laughing. But Sarah wasn't the only one who saw Ishmael laughing. Listen to what Galatians 4 says about this event. God saw this. And God inspired years later for Galatians 4 to be written by Paul. And this is what he says. He says, "Now you brothers, like Isaac, are children of promise. But just as at that time he who was born according to the flesh, who was Ishmael, persecuted him who was born according to the Spirit, who is Isaac." So the Lord is looking at this situation saying, look, this isn't just mere laughter. This isn't just mere mocking. This was persecution. That Isaac's actually in danger as long as Ishmael is in the house. So God is protecting the promised child here by telling Abraham to put him out, send him away. But God doesn't stop with that. He actually wants Abraham to know this too. And God says something to the effect of this. Look, he's your son. I know that. And Abraham, you need to know this about your son. I've got him. I've got him. Abraham, I will care for your son. Abraham, trust me with him. I told you, I will make a nation out of the son of the slave woman. And I'm telling you again, I will make a nation out of the son of the slave woman because he's yours. Look, think of how hard this would have been for Abraham. Because he loves his son. He loves this boy. This is the first son that made him a father. But pay attention to the timeline here. Abraham is probably what? 102, 103 by now? You remember how old he was when Ishmael was born? He was 86. So think about the timing here. That throughout this chapter, Ishmael is referred to as a what? A child. But he's like 17 years old. What do you do with that? A few weeks ago, you know, Brenda, who worked here, passed, and we had her funeral here, and the place was packed. And I heard one of the ladies in that room look at somebody and say, "This is my baby right here." And her baby was probably about 225 pounds with this like legit beard. Was it her baby? Yeah. Why? How do we know that? Because they're always yours. That's my baby right there. It doesn't matter how old they are. This may be a 17-year-old child, but this is Abraham's child. I think that's why it's written, so you can see, hey, this isn't just like he threw away some trash. This was God saying, give me that son. Send him away. I've got him. And we're going to see this 2 chapters in a row if you look ahead a little bit, right? Look, I gathered with a group of guys the other night. It was great time of encouragement, just time together. We wanted to see how each other were doing, and so the question was kind of out there, how are you guys? Like, really, how are you? And the first guy that spoke up said this. This is not verbatim, it's close. He said, I feel like I'm failing everything. At work, at home, as a husband and a dad, I don't feel like I'm doing anything well. And then you heard somebody else say, I feel like that too. And then the third guy says, I think we all feel like that. I actually did coffee with one of the guys visiting with us. He's actually sitting in this room. I just saw him. Hey. And he said something to the effect of this. He said, you have 7 kids, 1 wife, you're leading a church. Like, how do you do it all? And so I looked at him as seriously as I could, and I said, poorly. Look, I wonder if at this point Abraham just feels like he's failed as a father, as a leader of his home. One wife hates the other. Could have told you that'd be a bad idea the first time. She hates the kid. It's out of control. He can't control anything. He can't even stop lying about whether his wife is his sister or not. Like, Abraham's just doing poorly. And you hear what God says here, and understand something. God's not just saying, I've got Ishmael. You don't have to worry about it. God's ultimately saying to Abraham, Abraham, I've got it all. Abraham, I'm God and you're not. And the position is not open. No election is coming up. No vacancy. I haven't given my 2-week notice. I am God and you're not. Abraham, I'm not asking you to be perfect. I'm not asking you to overcome all things. I'm not asking you to wake up each day and be so strong so that you don't need me. I'm not asking you to be in control, to figure it all out, or to fix all that is broken. That's not your job, Abraham. I'm asking you to trust me. Friends, this is true for us as well. God is not asking you to be God. He's not asking you to carry what you weren't meant to carry. He's asking you to walk forward in faith, trusting Him, obeying Him, resting in His godness and in His goodness. Look, think about salvation. If you're going to be saved, it's because you put down all your efforts, all your merits, all your performance, and you come to Jesus and say, I can't save myself. I'm broken apart from you. I need you, Jesus. Forgive me. Save me. I'm trusting in you. It comes by laying down your performance and trusting in His perfect work. But don't miss this. If you're going to live the Christian life you're called to live, you're going to live the Christian life in the same exact way you came into the Christian life, by grace through faith, by trusting in God to give you all that you need to live faithfully. It doesn't start with Jesus and then become about you. It starts with Jesus and it what? Ends with Jesus. And everything in between is about Him. So trust the God who saves you. And trust that the God who saves you is the God who's going to supply your need each day to live in the way that He calls you to. Trust in the God who's promised to work in you and through you. Trust in the God who said that He's always here and will do just what He said He would do. Look, if you've never trusted in Jesus, today's the day. You will not be saved apart from Him. You can't save yourself. You can't fix yourself. You can't perform your way to heaven. It cannot be done. And if it could have, Jesus would have never come. But He did. And He came so that you could come to Him and be forgiven of your sin. The Bible tells us this: anyone who calls on the name of the Lord, who believes on the name of the Lord, will be saved. Look, Christian, you need to see there's not a moment in your life, not a moment, not a second that goes by that you don't need God, that you don't need His grace, His mercy, His strength, that all you have comes from Him, that the breath you're taking right now comes from Him, the beat of your heart right now comes from Him, as in Colossians 1 says, 1 Colossians, great book, you should try it. In Him, all things hold together. And right here, God is saying to Abraham and God is saying to you, just trust me. I'm the one that holds it together, not you. Let go and believe my word. And so Abraham does. He gives Hagar and Ishmael water and bread, and he sends them out. And it doesn't take long before they are wandering in Beersheba. The food runs out, the water runs out, and things start to get a little dicey. So she puts her child under the bushes, finds him some shade, and she goes about a bow shot away. And she cries out to the Lord. And notice what it says. It doesn't say, Hagar, I heard your voice. I thought I'd come and see what was wrong. It says, God hears the voice of the boy. You remember what the name Ishmael means? It means God hears. So we saw a few moments ago, Ishmael, Isaac to Isaac. And now God, Ishmael, Ishmael's. More free stuff. And God says to Hagar, don't fear. Don't fear, Hagar. I got him. I got your boy. I made a promise. I said I would, and I've got him. So lift him up. Get back on your feet. And that may be just what you need to hear today, right? Get up. God's got you. Keep walking ahead. God's got you. Keep trusting. God's got you. Keep working because God's got you. And we're told that God opened her eyes and she sees that there was a well right in front of them. God opened her eyes so that she could see what was right there in front of her. God, do the same thing with us. God, open our eyes so that we can see what is right in front of us, so that we can see your faithfulness, your provision, your protection right in front of us. And God does with Ishmael just as he promised to Abraham. I will make a nation out of him. So Ishmael is saved right here by the Lord. They see the water, they drink the water, and he decides to become a bowman. That he becomes a man of the wilderness, just like the wild donkeys of the wilderness. He grows up there, and he gets an Egyptian wife there, and he becomes an expert with the bow there. And from his life, from his offspring, his line, comes a mighty nation of warriors, men strong with the bow, just like God said, just like God promised. He did it. And then this chapter ends with a treaty between Abimelech and Abraham. Abimelech, the Philistine king, sees that God blesses Abraham, and he says, I think I want to be right with this guy. I want to be good with this guy. God's clearly with him in all that he does. So he wants to be on these good terms, so he comes to him. And while they make this pact between each other, Abraham brings up this well that he had dug that the men of Abimelech had taken. And Abimelech says to him, I don't even know what you're talking about. Nobody's talked to me about this. You never brought it up. And so Abraham makes this covenant with Abimelech. And he sets these 7 ewe lambs to the side, and Abimelech doesn't even know what this means. And so Abraham says, these lambs are a sign, a witness between us that I dug the well. And then we're told Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his army, they go back to the land of the Philistines. And then we get this line, and we're going to close with this right here. It says, Abraham planted a tree, and listen to this. Abraham planted a tree, and there called on the name of the Lord, the everlasting God. And Abraham sojourned many days in the land of the Philistines. Think about that right there. The Lord here is referred to as the everlasting God. And Abraham sojourned. You got the everlasting God, and then you got a guy he's only here for a little while. Friends, you're only here for a little while. The Bible's true, just like God said when it said, your life is like grass, like a vapor's breath. But the God who called you, who speaks through his word, who saves you by his Son, who indwells you by his Spirit, who cares for you, protects you, provides for you, makes promises to you, and keeps them. He is the everlasting God.